All right, everybody, we're back, and we're here to talk about In the Heights. Not into In the Heights, which is the
nasty
live action. I don't know the live action version of the stage play from Lin Manuel Miranda, written
the
by
motion picture version of the music.
Motion picture. There you go. Motion picture version of the stage play by
Right.
Lin Manuel Miranda, also with writing and production by Lin Manuel Miranda, and the other writer. See, I was saying it so well in my head.
You're saying American names right now.
Kiera Algeria Hudes. Directed by John M. Chu. What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Nothing.
Directed
John
by
M. Chu. What did you say?
John
MQ?
M. Chu.
Oh, I thought I heard you say Q.
Bless you.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. All right. Starring Anthony Ramos, Corey Hawkins, Leslie Grace, Jimmy Smits, Olga Melendez, and a large cast of well performed cast. This is a live action musical. Live action. I keep saying live action, but this is a musical from top stem to stern. This thing was great. I loved watching it. I had a lot of fun. But I'm going to start with the queen of the pod, Brooksy. Having seen the stage production, you are the expert here. Tell us what In the Heights is about, and then tell us your thoughts on In the Heights.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Is this not why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no choice.
Knock that shit off.
So I'm trying to remember when I actually saw the musical on Broadway, which whenever it came out is when I saw it 10, 15, 11 years ago, something along those lines. I also lived in Washington Heights for 15 years of my life. And so I feel like in that way, I kind of know the neighborhood intimately in a lot of ways, not as well as like Lin Miranda, who is from Inwood, which if you don't know is right above Washington Heights, but kind of, which is where James used to live. It's all kind of one sort of blended neighborhood. So I really enjoyed this musical a lot. I felt like it really captured, like I said, the soul and the essence of the Heights. Like, it was also filmed all around, like probably in a 5-block radius of where I lived for 15 years. So I thought it was really important that they actually filmed in Washington Heights in the neighborhood. They used like stores in the neighborhood. So there was nothing, or I shouldn't say nothing because I don't actually know, but it wasn't, like stage somewhere else where they actually don't have any background of Washington Heights. Like everything that they showed is real background, real Washington Heights. So I want to just say that because I think it's really important. They used a lot of local vendors, a lot of local like people in the Heights, and that was really, really important. And there was a lot of buzz about it in the neighborhood, how big of a deal it was, because people will come to the Heights and film, but bring like their camera crew or bring, whoever from other neighborhoods. But this film really focused on using people in the neighborhood or like employing people, I should say, in the neighborhood. So I think that's really important. It was really similar to the musical in a lot of ways, except one big way, which there was one big miss, which we can get into in a second. And it really just, I think it focused on like, like younger kids in Washington Heights and kind of their story and their struggle. And like, it's kind of like a coming of age story. So overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it really did the neighborhood justice, mostly, except one large part, which again, we can put a pin in that and come back in a second. Because I want to see what?
I just said put a pin in it.
Oh, yeah.
I was repeating.
Because Because I also want to hear James's take, because he also lived in, the neighborhood for a while. So
yeah, I have a multi-layered take on this musical. Part of it has to do with just musicals in general for me. As you guys know, and gals, that I'm not a huge musical fan, and it takes a lot for me to really get into one. I think the last one, and usually it's because my family's forced me to watch it, or Chris has forced me to do it for homework. I think the last ones that I really kind of said, "Hey, better than I thought," was the one with Hugh Jackman, The Greatest Show on Earth.
Greatest
Greatest Showman.
Yeah, that one took me by surprise.
I didn't like that one.
It started off really terrible for me as far as the music numbers, but then there was like a story that I'm always looking for a story in these things, right? And then you throw the music, and that's when I kind of turn off for a bit. Except for the second movie that really resonated with me was the one with Aladdin, the live action Aladdin. And for the first time, the music in that one to me was better than the narrative, but to the point where I was still, entertained. And both those movies, I didn't give them an A or whatever. I didn't give them high remarks, but for musicals, I thought they were pretty good. So this one hit me with a bunch of different things. One was the musical part, which because it is a live action musical. The second was the culture that it was based on, the Heights, supposedly Dominican, which I didn't feel it really was. And then the third part was this story, which Brooks forgot to mention, was actually supposed to be based on real life events in the early 2000s on the infamous Niagara Mohawk North American power outage in 2003, if I remember correctly. Yeah, summer 2003, the blackout that affected New York. So 3 things were happening here. One, unfortunately, my head could not turn off some of the facts about how the blackout started and how the neighborhoods were during the time period. Because I had friends and family members that are living in the area. My wife actually has friends that have been living there since the 90s and through her sisters and marriages. So the first things we were trying to explain to Serena, who had no clue, was explaining this is not what happened during that time. It was a lot of like cops were there. Yeah, there was some people dancing and singing, but it wasn't like the entire Heights just said, hey, no power. Let's, that to me kind of turned me off. And unfortunately, I could not ignore that. But to the centerpiece, before we get to the musical, the centerpiece, which I think Brooks wanted to put a pin on, was the fact that, and I wasn't alone, but I was glad to see that there was articles about this to the point where Lin Manuel had to issue formal declarations and apologies, where there was some colorism that was very obvious in this. Me being from a Latin background as well, of different family members, much darker than me, much lighter than me. And also, when you really dig into it, most of the actors were not Dominican American or of Dominican descent. They were a mixture. So to me, In the Heights wasn't really so much about the Dominicans living in Washington Heights during 2003's blackout. It was more like a movie that was showcasing the Latin culture in a fictitious setting that was the Heights, around an event that caused people to react certain ways. So, but unfortunately, that took me in the third act before I could finally kind of accept it, right? These are not all Dominicans. This clearly there's a Puerto Rican playing Dominican, and some of the foods that they were selling is definitely not Dominican, and stuff like that. I think for me, it was too close to home for me to separate what I was seeing on screen from my own experience. Now, on the flip side, taking away what happened in 2003, taking away the colorism, because again, there was very, very few Dominicans that looked darker than me, is the musical itself, the content. I actually enjoyed the musical pieces in this, and I thought I wouldn't.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
I thought maybe because of my wife and my daughter were like beating me in my head over the positivity, and I was falling to the hype. But no, I remember after it aired, I was kind of, Serena was singing, she already dabbled in the thing and she was playing it, and I was kind of humming to the tunes. And that's the part that I like about stuff like this. And Chris, you've known me for a bit now when it comes to these things. If you can give me a musical number that connects me to a form of like I'm enjoyed by it, you've already won half the battle there. Now, if I need to feel upset about, how characters were displayed or how characters looked that were supposed to display to other than them, then that's an intellectual conversation I can have about the movie without shitting on the movie. So I think, and I'm going long-winded here, is to me, this was a threefold hit of a show that I watched that ultimately I liked because of the fact of the musical pieces to this.
Yeah, I think it's actually something that Lin Manuel does really well, and that was the biggest takeaway from Hamilton. Also, was the musical aspect and how he brings different cultures into it. So, like in Hamilton, there was
freaking writing that shit down right now to sound really smart, and Brooksy goes and just takes it away. Just takes it away. Takes my point and just
Sorry.
go for it.
Game six,
no,
game
do
six,
it.
Brooks.
Game 6, I know. In the film, Benny, who is the black dude that works at the taxi dispatcher, he is dating or dated, who is it? Nina? Is that her name? No.
Yeah. The daughter.
They talk about that they don't, in the musical, they talk about not wanting that to happen because they don't want their like pretty light-skinned daughter to date a black dude, right? That is a subject that is addressed. It is a subject that is like something that is a topic within, that is an issue within the Dominican community. So I know that, you know, I know Lin Manuel knows about it. He wrote about it. And then he was like, now that it's going to be on mainstream TV, I'm going to completely take this out. And to me, that was a big whitewashing of the movie, because when you look at the movie, like when you look at a lot of the extras, there are Black Dominicans in the background. Dancing, right. But then when you look at like a subject that was already written about, he takes that out. That's a form of whitewashing. It's like, oh, actually, no, there's no, you know, it's a way of him saying there is no colorism in the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean? There is no issue of colorism. That's essentially what he was saying by taking that storyline out.
And not even whitewashing the storyline. What about prominent figures? And I think it took Kat to make me realize the most prominent character that was of actual Dominican descent was the lady from Orange is the New Black. There was no other similar male or female character that was her stature in the entire, you know, movie at her level or higher. And that's not, I'm not calling that whitewashing, but that goes back to the colorism. You know, like when you start changing, like imagine if they did something about the Haitian American Revolution and I'm the main actor in that, or my sister is the main actress in that.
But at least you're Haitian. At least you're Haitian.
But no, but if you look at the history, we were not at the forefront of the revolution, you know, at that time. It was the dark-skinned slaves.
Absolutely. But they're in the Heights, almost nobody is actually Dominican that's playing the main characters. They're playing Dominican characters, but they are not Dominican.
Not actual Dominican.
But there are.
I mean, it's not 1956 anymore. You can't cast Cary Grant to play Dominican.
No.
Right. Or who was it that played
1956, try 1990s. They were still
1985, yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at the entire 5 or 6, 10 lines of top-notch names, Dasha's the only one from Dominican Republic or of Dominican descent. She's the only one. That's terrible.
From what I got from the movie, the setting was the main character was from Dominican Republic, but everybody was supposed to be this mixture of cultures coming together, like that.
That's not necessarily the Heights,
right?
Though.
I know,
right?
But
the Heights is predominantly Dominican.
This is a magical musical world where Lin Manuel Miranda writes a location based on what he knows, where all of these, and you saw it in the very last scene, where they have the Cubans and the Mexicans and the Dominicans and everybody's coming together and they're all doing their own special dances and they're all going back and forth. And it's this magic, happy place. Like it felt like the main character was supposed to be that, but it didn't, from an outside perspective. Now this is all this is, just watching a movie for me. It felt like this just magical, happy place where everybody from all these variety of cultures, different backgrounds, different mixes of backgrounds as the one girl goes through her background of multiple different cultures, that it was just this mixed, beautiful smattering that they were all treated crappy.
And that's where the danger lies. Whether it's, again, I'm not saying it's whitewashing. I think it's a more dangerous thing is let's say you have no history of what Washington Heights is. You're going to this movie thinking, wow, this is like an enclave of multiracial ethnic folks that live in this area. Totally missing the fact that that's not what they're trying to. Well, again, I don't know Lin Manuel's true intent other than what he's telling me in the articles. Like, he missed the mark. Like, if I have a musical about Flatbush Church Avenue, Brooklyn, right, and I have one Haitian, one Trinidadian, one Jamaican, and a bunch of black dudes from LA, and this is my musical. And some of them are trying to use it, and I see this all the time. Like, most Haitians I see on TV are not Haitians. You could tell from the way that they're talking Creole. But I have black dudes from Georgia, from Miami, from LA, and they're all playing a role of Brooklyn and Flatbush, Brooklyn. And I'm watching this because I know better. But then my best friend, who's from Canada, has no clue. He has a wrong idea of what the area is like. He's seeing a Hollywoodized Disney version of this.
Well, that's the question how far is the biography level of our musical? How are we taking this? Like, do you expect that everybody in the musical be exactly what they say they are?
Let's look at Mulan.
The place has to look exactly like it.
How many of the actors of voice Mulan were actual Southeast Chinese or Asian, and not Indian or Bangladesh or Hawaiian or South Pacific?
I think the main actress is specific. It happens, and if you look at all of these new movies set in Asia, Southeast Asia, China, you get that. You get a lot of that. But this is coming from a writer, a director, a producer, the actors
who knows better.
All of these people are participating in a trying to say, oh, this is part of our culture. Look how awesome it is. And then they step on the grenade.
And I don't want to poo-poo this movie because of this one issue, although it does bother me personally for a lot of different personal reasons. I still like the movie. I like the general story. I had some holes in the story too, like the lotto. That's one big hole. And some fictitious stories about the blackout. But the musical to me made me overcome all of that to say that I really enjoyed it, despite the colorism, despite the underrepresentation.
All right. So I guess what I should say is we should give Mike a chance to talk. And
yes, Mike, you've been quiet. Come on.
And we'll move on from the cultural.
There's Guyanese Americans in the Heights too.
The very important cultural aspect of this movie, which is a really big part of it, and I'll just do a kind of a quick movie review as well. So, Mike, you take it away.
Well, for me, right off the bat, there's only one Heights, and that's Jackson Heights. So get out of here with this.
Oh,
wow.
No. So I understand musicals need to be usually about 3 hours long so people get their money's worth. But this movie, to me, while I enjoyed
2.5
it,
hours. 2.5 hours.
It was 2.5 hours. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours. Like, I didn't need a 5-minute song about the lotto in this movie.
Oh, that was the best song, though.
No. The best song for me and the best film song was the second to last one, When the Sun Goes Down. That was a great
I like
number.
that one. Yeah.
It was filmed beautifully when they were going up the side of the building and everything.
Oh, that's a moving set, by the way.
Yeah, I know how to do it.
So they create
it was done well. Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know, they actually create a moving set so that the dancers can practice. They practice on regular set, but as they can move up and down, there's no CGI to the building, just the surroundings.
Yeah, and like James, I'm not really usually a big fan of musicals. I did enjoy Hamilton. There are a couple others I like. But I also grew up with Bollywood movies too, so I'm used to this kind of thing. Whereas every 5 minutes they break into song for no reason. So, but overall, I enjoyed the movie. I did see where people were complaining about the skin tone issue and the originality, the ethnicity of actors and characters, etc. But it didn't really disrupt my enjoyment of it overall. So,
all right, going back the other way, James, what's your review of the movie that you saw?
I enjoyed it. I'm ready for a grade. I enjoyed the movie. Again, I have to say that I know there were some issues in it that bothered me, and I asked a few of my friends who are actually Dominican, live in the area, and I had a mixed reaction from them. So once I took that in and went back to, my memories of the movie, I enjoyed the movie despite those issues.
Brooks?
I agree. Same. This is odd. Now I'm agreeing with James. I don't know what's happening today. I really enjoyed it. Like, I really enjoyed it as a musical, as a movie. I mean, yeah, I was comparing it to the original musical on Broadway. So I was trying to not focus on like the differences and the holes. But I think overall, I think it was great. I would watch it again. I really want some mofongo. I don't know where the hell I'm going to get that in LA. And yeah, I do wish, like James said, I wish there was more addressing of the colorism. But the other thing that I really liked was, I felt like all over my feed, social media, LinkedIn, everybody was talking about this movie and the pride in being Dominican. I feel like it brought that out a lot, and I really liked that. Like, it brought a spotlight onto Washington Heights and the Dominican culture. So that I thought was great.
All right. So for me, as Brooks was saying before about the Lin Manuel Miranda's writing, is what he does amazing is his flow is different than any other musical you've ever seen. So he is not the standard musical Alan Menken musical writer type thing.
I definitely like this style.
So and he has a background and ability to bring multiple types of music, multiple cultures in and out. Not just, I'm going to do it in this style this time. Like, he wrote some of the songs for Moana. So he that's a completely different culture. He went into that culture and used that as a song style. But in this case, he flowed depending on the character that was singing. He completely changed tempo. He completely changed the tone, everything. He just was allowed to have full range of music, whether it's cultural or not to the person, or just a character piece to make that emotional connection with that character. So he's just so good at it. And his conversational flow, where he doesn't have to rhyme the last word, or any of that crap. It's just, he's allowed to move in and out of whatever terms and words work best for the situation and for the character. It's so good. And can we all just say the Abuela death scene was hurtful?
I was definitely choked up.
Hard to watch.
I was gonna say, I think that might have been my favorite scene in the entire
Well, it's just so cool because she's watching the kids having fun, and then it popped out and it goes into this history, her history, and it was a real interesting, story-wise, it was interesting sidestep to what was going on, and a first person view of the history of an immigrant coming to.
I know a lot of people in the Caribbean culture that had very similar experiences to her. So to me, it hit me in my heartstrings very personally when I saw that moment. And then I got pissed when I realized the lotto ticket, she never told him while she was still alive. The wife was like, no, she knew he was going to find. I was like, no, that's not. That's a suspense of disbelief I'm not going to have. But her death scene to me hit me personally. Yeah, that's my favorite moment. I almost was a little teary-eyed for that.
All right, let's go around and give grades. And if you feel like it, give her your favorite performer for this musical. Brooksy, grade, favorite performer.
I'm going to give the grade of a B plus. I think I'm going to go B plus, but mostly it would have gotten an A from me if they would have kept the storyline of the stigma of dating a Black man. And my favorite actress was Nina Rosario.
All right, James.
My grade is going to be a B minus. As much as I love the movie. I still have some issues with it. Just content wise, also. I mentioned a couple with the background that's supposed to take place. So I can't give it a higher than a B minus. And again, I have to say, like, we have to speak up for things, even if it's our own culture and we don't feel it's doing the best that it can. We can't just remain quiet, otherwise there'll never be any progress. So B minus is my grade. My favorite performer was Anthony Ramos's character. Great actor, by the way. I've seen him in a lot of things before this, and he's going places.
He was really good in the camera shots. Like, he really felt connected to his character. I agree with that.
So,
all right, Mike.
It's gonna be a B for me. I did enjoy it overall. So, like I said, yeah, probably I'm with James. Probably Usnavi. What's his name again? Anthony Ramos. My favorite performer in this one.
All right, and I'm going with a full A. I do not have any of unfortunately the insights to the reality of the situation. So
if there's music and dancing, it's an A for Chris.
Go only purely on it, and it was fantastic.
Because Chris doesn't see race, that's why.
That's right.
Which is fine for him.
It's hard to. Never mind. I won't say that. No, I loved it. We were laughing, we were crying, we were the whole emotional range in while we were watching it. And I'm gonna say Gregory Diaz, the kid who played Sonny, the cousin. I
almost forgot about
the young kid.
Too, yeah.
Was afraid of getting deported.
Yeah.
It was good.
The part where him and Corey Hawkins, Benny, when they were telling Usnavi he had no game, that whole section is probably just like my favorite. Him asking her out for him.
That's so good. That was so cute.
It was
I
awesome.
I forgot about him.
He was great. He was great in the pool scene. He was great at the end when he had his emotional connection. It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
I also like that it was a subject that they did touch on, because it is a big subject that, you know, people are here either legally or undocumented that are afraid of like getting deported. And when I lived in the Heights, there was especially maybe it was like 2 years ago, I want to say, where there was it was right when Trump was towards the end of his presidency.
Don't say his name.
I know.
He who must not be named.
Yeah. He who shall not be named.
It's like Steve Colbert does it on his show.
There was so many signs all around Washington Heights of like what to do if ICE comes to your door, or if you see ICE or whatever. So, you know, I mean, it's a big subject. So I like that he actually did touch on that. But yeah, wish that he would have touched on the colorism as well.
All right, do better, Lin Manuel. You heard it here.
Because we know you can. That's why.
Right.
You failed.
Very talented. You failed. All right.